Welcome, everyone, to the kickoff event for the new program RAMP, Research and Market Pathways. On behalf of the CGIAR Accelerate for Impact platform, an initiative powered by the Alliance of Bioversity International and CEST, we'd like to thank you for joining us today to learn about the rollout of our new accelerator program for CGIAR scientists. My name is Megan Steele, Junior Expert in Innovation Ecosystem Engagement for the Accelerate for Impact platform team, and I'll be the MC for this event today. As more attendees enter the call, I'd like to open up the chat. Please introduce yourself and where you're joining from, and I'll also encourage you to participate in a few Zoom poll questions to get the ideas flowing. So I'll be launching this poll now. These questions focus on your thoughts on market pathways to impact. Have you ever considered scaling your research through the market? What areas of research do you think are the most promising for these strategies of scaling? And what kind of support would you like to see to make it possible to pursue this kind of work? We're interested to gauge your experience and interest in these themes of market-driven scaling, and we'll return to these themes to open the conversation in our Q&A segment. As we wait for a little bit more panelists to join, I encourage you to answer these questions. As you reflect, I'll give a quick roadmap of our event today. We will begin the RAMP Research and Market Pathways Kickoff event by hearing from the Associate Director General for Research Strategy and Innovation at the Alliance of Bioversity International and CEST, Marcela Quintero. Marcela will share opening remarks on RAMP's alignment with CGIAR and the Alliance's strategy for ensuring our research delivers impact, how internal leadership is an important partner in the program. Our keynote address is an interview with an innovator. We'll hear from Ross Hendren, the co-founder and CEO of Wild Biosciences, an Oxford spinout, on his lessons for deriving impact from research from market pathways. We will next present RAMP, Research Market and Pathways, which will unfold over the next year, highlighting the program's objectives, methodology, who can participate, and how. Then we'll spend the remainder of the event collecting your feedback and taking your questions. RAMP is a program designed especially for CGIAR scientists, so it is vital for us to ensure your input is reflected throughout the program. For this, we encourage you to use the Zoom Q&A feature to submit your questions and make your voice heard. Without further ado, it's time to give the floor to Marcela Quintero, the Alliance's Associate Director General for Research Strategy and Innovation, for remarks to open today's event. We'll see if she is able to join the call. It looks like Marcela is not yet on the call. So while we wait for her to join us, we can start with our keynote address. This is an interview with an innovator, with Ross Hendren. So before diving into the nitty-gritty of the program and those remarks that we will later hear, we have a special keynote intervention, and this is about the experience of taking an innovation out of the lab and into the market. Wild Biosciences is a pioneering spinout from the University of Oxford, is leveraging the potential of wild plant genetics to develop a revolutionary crops, exemplifying how scientific innovation can transcend the lab and become a transformative force in the market. In this quick interview with co-founder and CEO Ross Hendren, we'll explore this journey from academic research to launching a spin-out venture, and what can be gleaned from this experience for other scientists who want to embrace market mechanisms for greater impact, resilience, and sustainability of their research. Let's take a look. Thanks again for joining us today. We're really excited to hear how your experience bringing an innovation from the academic, from the lab environment into the market can be a point of inspiration for CGIAR scientists. So if you want to start, if you could just introduce yourself and your work, tell us a little bit about what Wild Bioscience does.
Sure. Yeah, thanks for having me. So I'm Ross Hendron. I'm the co-founder and CEO of Wild Bioscience. Originally, I was a researcher at Oxford University. That's where I did my PhD, focusing on plant genetics, which is the main research area that Wild works on today. And I was in the lab with our co-founder, Professor Steve Kelly. After that, I worked in venture capital for a little bit, trying to understand the entrepreneur ecosystem, and then founded Wild in 2021. So Wild Bio is a spin-out from Oxford University. What we're really working on is thinking about evolutionary biology, how we can really mine that better using combination of AI and gene editing to develop higher yielding crops. And ultimately, of course, the goal, like many of us are working on in this space, is trying to drive climate resilience and decarbonization through crop production systems as well.
That's great. And can you tell me a little bit about the research that started this, the seed of this venture, and what made you consider looking at a spin out as opposed to other routes to impact?
Sure. So the research area was really focused on photosynthesis, and really thinking about how have wild plants optimized that process, and generally what are the things that maybe have evolved in nature that our crops just don't know how to do that helps them improve their performance. And throughout the PhD project, we ended up developing a proof of concept. So we had something in the university labs that looked exciting. And we had no idea at the time just how much work it then takes to get that concept through to a working product that farmers can actually use. That was the big learning there. But the other thing alongside that was thinking, well, if we can do this once, there are probably other innovations out there that we can also start broadening out into as well, and other ways to improve our crops. So ultimately, we chose to spin out because we really want this research to have impact. We know there's a lot of development to do. There's a huge amount of work needs to go in to get it to the farmers at that point. So we needed a team. We needed to be really good at executing. We needed to get resources and to really manage that and focus that project towards that goal, towards making that impact. So whereas the university was really good from a scientific perspective to get that initial proof of concept, actually putting all the extra work in to get that through to a product really was better suited to a startup where you can pull all those things together that I just mentioned and actually point them in the right direction. So that was the goal.
Yeah, as you mentioned, in a university context or just a larger research context, sometimes engaging with the market and the concept of spinouts, researchers may have some hesitancy around this, maybe because they don't fully understand or they've just never thought of it as a potential for their research. So did you have any reservations when you started, and how did you sort of overcome these in the process of scaling?
Yeah, I think you're right. There's a lot of misconceptions, and it is different to what you're engaging with most of the time when you're doing a science. Um, I think one of the big things is, if you want to have that impact and you want to put all these pieces together I just mentioned, first of all, someone needs to fund it. And actually, if you start thinking of those markets as a way of accelerating that impact rather than being something that's scary that you don't want to engage with, actually, you can find that is really the route to get these things moving. And for me, I think getting my head around the idea that rather than being something, uh, completely antithetical to the science and something that maybe was a bit scary or difficult, actually, if you can figure out how to leverage that capital and really put it to work for the good of the planet and for what you're trying to do, that's actually the way to improve lives faster and to have that impact. So really just flipping the kind of perception about what that actually is, and making sure then we're navigating that correctly so that we're in a position where we can say, well, actually now we've done that work, we've built this product, and now we can decide how that's used and make sure it's distributed fairly and understand the impact that we're going to have. But doing it from a position of having built the technology and made sure it's actually working, and see that's where you've really got to engage with these things.
Yeah, absolutely. And you touch on the fact that the collaboration between science and industry, it really is the key to help accelerate the impact of those innovations. So specifically for Wild Bioscience, why was a spin out the right option? Was there something about your idea that made you consider the market?
Yeah, I think that collaboration piece was really important. So, I mean, thinking about how you engage with industry, it's the industry that really knows their customers, right? And at the end of the day, if there isn't a farmer buying this because they know it's going to add value to their farm, it's probably not going to go anywhere. It's not going to scale. So being able to engage with industry as a startup is very helpful because actually you can pull that learning in very quickly, get that into the scientist team immediately, and from day one, you're building something useful rather than something that hope one day might work, but actually you don't have that validation for a really long time. And the other important thing there is, and this really touches on that collaboration piece and why spin out at all, is you don't have to do everything by yourself. There is a really big growing organization, growing ecosystem out there. I think we're all trying to achieve impact, and everyone can really leverage and the things they're not so strong on and offer the things they are strong on. And just to give you an example with Wild, We do a lot of gene editing, so we've built very advanced transformation pipelines and things like soybean and wheat. That's a big investment to make that happen. Obviously, we use that internally for R&D, but now that it's there, when we're talking to different groups who have different requirements, that's something we can offer as a resource that other people can use. And just in the same way, we are not field trialing experts. We do a huge amount of field trials, but we do that by then engaging with local groups all over the world who've been in the UK, Argentina, Brazil, the US, where, we don't know how to run a field trial there, but there are groups who do, and that's how we can work together just to make sure everyone's moving along as fast as possible.
And in talking about these collaborations with different groups, I think I might know your answer here, but what has been the most rewarding part of the journey?
For me, I think definitely building that team that I kind of touched on before. I mean, there's so many skill sets, so many diverse views you want in that mix. And actually, there's some really cool things happen when you have, computer scientists and agronomists and molecular biologists sharing a kitchen and sharing a language. You get these really creative solutions coming out of kind of left field you weren't thinking about before. But that's really energizing. And then it all comes together in these moments. So like getting actually into the field. There was a moment earlier this year when we were in Argentina, we had a maize trial there, and I ended up getting separated and a bit lost from our agronomist. And it just made it all very real, that just how tangible, these were seeds we designed in a lab in Oxford. Now we're on the other side of the world and actually growing there and doing what we think, what we want them to do. So it just kind of puts all of that work together into sharp relief in moments like that.
I think it's a real inspiration, that the story of Wild Bio, but what message would you give to other researchers in agri-food science who are maybe considering taking their innovations beyond the lab through market pathways?
Yeah, try not to be obvious. I guess the thing that may be not so obvious is if you're going to be driving something like this, and it's really worthwhile, and you grow a lot, and you're able to achieve a huge amount, but your personal network becomes really important as well. I think everyone understands your professional network is going to really help you out, and building that's important. But actually, this is really hard. So at the end of the day, if you can put people around you who sort of know what you're going through, that you can bounce ideas off and commiserate with and get advice from, that's going to be really helpful just the whole way through. So definitely recommend building out that aspect, as well as all the other stuff that are going to be really obvious that you need to do.
Thank you so much, Ross. I think that's a great note to end on. It's perspectives from innovators like you, and also all the innovators from CGIAR that will engage the building of this program that will really inform sort of the networks that are necessary to take those innovations to the next level. So thanks again, and it was great talking to you.
Thanks. Oh, my pleasure.
Thanks again for joining us today. We're really excited to hear. So Ross's words about translating research into impact at scale lead us now into discuss a little bit more detail what has brought us here today. And we're happy to invite to give her opening remarks, Marcela Quintero, Associate Director General of the Alliance for Research, Strategy, and Innovation. Marcela, welcome, and thanks for being here today.
No, thank you very much. Megan, can you hear me well?
Yes.
Perfect. So good morning and good afternoon, everyone. And thanks for joining this kickoff event of the Research and Market Pathway Accelerator Program. As Associate Director General for Research of the Alliance, I'm very excited to see this program being launched. It's an effort of the Global Partnerships team, and it's very relevant for us because we are just about to start revisiting how we have been doing when implementing research for impact over the past 3 years and with the creation of the Alliance. And this reflection is going to help us to think what else we need to do to amplify that impact of research. So this accelerator is going to contribute also a lot to improve our impact pathways. So RAMP is a very pioneering approach because really, as it was just highlighted by Rose, helps to find avenues for researchers to translate their research outputs, mainly innovations, into pathway where these can really be used by the different users that can benefit from our innovations, which could be farmers, but also other type of actors that are part of the food systems that we are targeting. However, sometimes we produce so many innovations and not necessarily are market ready or are ready to be used in a sustained way. Just to give you a number, the CGIAR have reported over more than 800 innovation outputs, and the Alliance alone, we have tracked in our monitoring system more than 200. And out of those 200, around 150 are technological innovations. However, we are not really sure about how far or at what extent these innovations are being used, who are uptaking them, and how we can improve, if useful, the sustained use of these innovations. So that's why this accelerator program is going to be super important for us to understand and delineate and build market and use pathway for all of those innovations. And also, it's going to be very useful for us to screen what of those innovations are really viable products that are ready to go and to be used and serve the needs of the smallholders, but also value chain actors and other food system actors across the global south. So it's very relevant, and it comes, as I said, very in line with the research priorities that we have in the organizations in terms of amplifying impact and also kind of tracking better what are those innovations that we are producing and which ones are really viable products to be used and to be ready also for the market. Now, what we can expect from RAMP, and I have been always talking with the global partnership teams and understanding, okay, what our researchers can expect from RAMP. So first of all, our scientists are going to be equipped with essential skills and market connections that are needed to turn our discoveries, our innovations into practical and impactful solutions. Second one, our scientists are going to be linked and connected to valuable partnerships with agri-food industry and value generation partners, and also is going to help the scientists to understand, okay, what is the demand that this innovation is targeting, and based on that demand, then to connect to those valuable partnerships and also to partners that can add value to those innovations. And the third one is that when we are talking about kind of putting innovations into use, there are different dimensions that need to be considered, not only from the research perspective, but also from the partnership perspective, from the financial perspective, and from the legal perspective. So RAMP is also going to help us to articulate within the organization with these different areas, partnerships, legal, finance, and research, when it's about taking this last mile of the innovations to make sure that these innovations really are viable and are used in a sustained way by the final users. So we are going to be listening today more about what are the different stages of this pilot phase of RAMP. One is going to be discover, the other one is the launch itself of the RAMP accelerator, and the other one is the actual acceleration. So we are going to be listening today about these three stages: discover, launch, and accelerate. So for the moment, I would like to invite everyone to be closely involved with RAMP to help us this is a pilot phase. If there is adjustments that need to be made, please make suggestions to the team. And again, as we embark next year in revisiting our research strategy, it's good that also we keep in mind RAMP as one of these strategies, new strategies of the Alliance to amplify the impact and link innovations to impact and actual use. So with this, I want to hand over to you back again, Megan, and then hear more details about RAMP from the team. Thank you very much.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Marcela. It's the support of Alliance leadership and leadership across the CGIAR centers that's really going to be critical to making sure that this program is fit for purpose for our scientists and can really deliver on that promise of impact from our science and innovation. So without further ado, we'll go ahead and we'll get more into the details of the program itself. And for this, I'll hand the word to Gianpiero Menza, Senior Manager, Partnerships and Innovative Finance at the Alliance.
Thank you, Megan, and thank you, colleagues, for joining us. Let me also thank Ross and Marcela. I very much appreciate your support in this effort, and Ross for bringing us a different perspective to our organization and sharing your experience. It's very important for us to break these walls and also learn what is happening in the industry and the different pathways that science can have. So just to go back a few months ago when we started this process, we were just looking at the different models that research institutions and the university were adopting to better valorize, better connecting the research to market. And we learned a lot, and our idea since the beginning was really to come up with something that could actually be replicated and offered to the Alliance and CGIAR and have a more interesting model to support our scientists to translate their research innovation from lab to market. But why are we doing this? And we have identified a number of opportunities and challenges, starting from what Marcela was saying about the number of super good innovations that often remain untapped because either in this conceptual or pre-commercial phase, or we are scaling, but we don't know what's next, or the opportunity offered by the industry itself that is now constantly looking for solutions that can respond to this increasing environmental challenges, or new solutions that can respond to agricultural needs in the industry. But last but not least is the opportunity related to the R&D model that in most of the private companies and industry players is changing, because if in the past large companies, or in general companies, they used to have their research and development unit in-house, since few years we have seen an increasing number of organizations mainly working with universities and research institutions by offering a number of programs that better connect the institutions. So we were looking at something that really could be better aligned to what's happening out there in the landscape. But we also realized that in order to do this, we had to tackle a few challenges. And often we realized that scientists are always very overwhelmed with their research progress, and not always have the time to really invest in the scaling of their innovations, or were not in sufficient funding and incentive mechanism for scientists to dedicate this time, or support from legal and not clear market pathways. But at the same time, there were a lack of financial resources to take that solutions from being a product that is in an early stage to a market-ready solution. So next slide, please. So just here, I want to go through some of the very good examples of innovations, and you probably have you are familiar with Acclimatar, Artemis, My Farmer Trees, or we have Terra I+, and these are all solutions that are emerging as very promising innovations that can actually work and be brought to market through their own business models. Megan, can you go to the next slide, please? Thank you. And we don't want to, there's this is not, of course, an exhaustive list. We want to just give an idea of what is actually present in our portfolio of innovation. But our question, that we are trying to answer is, what if we had the approaches and the support to transform a promising science-based solutions at the end of its research grant into a market viable product that sustainably serves our beneficiaries and value chain players? And we have an answer. The answer is exactly this new program that we are launching here today, RAMP. It's a dedicated program to our scientists that will help them to better translate the scientific discoveries that we have currently available in our portfolio and create models, business models, and more clear go-to-market strategy. Next slide. Yeah, the approach we are using is very market-driven, very aligned and with the user needs. And it's important to know that this is not going to take just a commercial angle, but the work that will be done together with the teams that will be involved is really to identify what is the most suitable approach to valorize and take this solution to market. And this can take the form of either a social venture or simply a partnership with the industry, or charities that can still generate and have an opportunity to have a model that can make the innovation sustainable. Next slide, please. The specific objective of the projects are in 4 levels, because the opportunity here is to create a pipeline of solutions that can be better connected to the market needs. We want to establish clear market pathways for future innovations that will emerge from our research. We want to be better connected to the ecosystem out there. So basically create a gateway for industry players, and we are already in touch with many of them, and they also flag their interest, and we're going to explain more in a second. But it's important that we better connect and build this relationship. But also the idea is really to foster a cultural change and the importance of thinking about product market fit, long-term viability of research generated by our institutions. Next slide. The approach, as I was explaining before, is layered, and we have a team made of member of the global partnership team working at the accelerator impact platform, and the Kindling venture is the organization we selected to work with us, and we are representative here in our call today that will soon explain in details how the approach will work. But just to say about Kindling, it's an organization that has been supporting many UK-based universities like Oxford or Cambridge and Brighton, and my colleagues can tell more here. But they've been working with many scientists, so they know, and they've been they are familiar with the logic, the thinking that is often behind the research approaches. We will have an advisory committee composed of Alliance and CGIAR leadership, agri-food industry leaders, and technology transfer experts to provide strategic advice on priority setting, and and also future. Probably, if consider this as a pilot, so we want to consider of better adapting and improving this model in the future. We will have a selection committee that will accompany us in this process, and will work with all of you, because we want to have a fair and competitive process that is going to make sure that the best solutions in the Alliance and in CGIAR can actually benefit from this program. And then, of course, we will have a number of project partners that will be collaborating with us throughout the project. Next slide. And I think I will hand over to Chris. Thank you.
Hi there. Thank you, Giampiero. So my name is Chris Falliam. I'm one of the co-founders and directors of Kindling Ventures. And as Giampiero and Megan mentioned, we work across Europe, but particularly in the UK, really working with researchers to make sure they can create impact at scale. And if you're wondering what impact at scale means, from our point of view, it's about how do we get the research to make sure it hits its beneficiaries, that it does so with a sustainable source of funding, and if possible, that it can use that sustainable source of funding, whether it's philanthropic, government, commercial, to reach as many of those beneficiaries as it possibly can through scaling. So that's what we really mean, and that's really how we've structured the whole program. Now, traditionally, when you hear about accelerators, you may think it's like a single program. You apply to join an accelerator, and you either get in or you don't. And if you do, then you kind of go on this very intense process. But we've created something quite different, which we prefer to call a guided pathway. And it's basically a 3-part approach. And we're going to kind of talk about the 3-part approach very quickly. But the high level reason for doing this three-part approach is not everyone's at the same stage. Some people might just want to find out about this approach to create an impact from their research. Some people might want to just play around with it before they take it any further. And some people are ready to really kind of, put their foot down and invest a lot of time and energy to really make it happen. And the three-part program, Discover, Launch, and Accelerate, is really designed so that whichever stage you're at, there's a part of the program that you can join. And if you just join one part and you decide you're not ready or it's not for you, that's okay. But if you're keen, you can go through all the stages and then build something really great. So it's really just open and as accessible as possible. So if we can go to the next slide, please, Megan. So the first bit, Discover. This is very much, in my sense, the sort of find out more stage. It's really designed so that as many researchers as possible can find out, what market pathways might mean for them and their research. It's just two-hour sessions, basically. It's online, so it should be really easy. And we're going to run at least 3 of them. And the aim is really just to kind of take your research and think about who the audience is, who the beneficiaries of your research might be, and just play around with that idea. And that's it. And you do it with your peers. It's fun. It's online. It's just for lots of people to find out more. So if that's all you did, and you just wanted to kind of get a new perspective on how impact can work, that's what Discover does for you. Next slide, please. Okay, so Launch is more like you kind of want to play around with it. It's a bit more like you want to dip your toe in the water. In Launch, this is when you say, okay, I've heard about this. This could be a good approach for my research, but what would it look like? What does that mean? And Launch is a bit more involved. We have 4 sessions, which we have these great experts that lead them. Each of them is about 2 hours, and you go through all 4. And as you go through them, we're going to take you through some different training exercises and different approaches, even a little bit of what we call market validation, where you talk to a user, some customers, some beneficiaries, just to get a sense of how they perceive your research, what would be most useful for them, get a real feel for how the 2 bits might connect. And you're going to basically play around with that. And the aim of that is really to sort of build an idea in your head of how your research could look if you took it down a market pathway. It doesn't commit you to it. It's a chance to just play around, take in some more information, speak to some extra people that you haven't spoken to before, some stakeholders, and get a bit more of a tangible sense. And really the aim at this stage is to give you an ability to say, should we take it to the next step, accelerate, or actually, no, we just wanted to play around and see what that could mean. Go to the next slide. So accelerate is kind of when you've kind of dipped your toe in the water and now you want to kind of plunge in. Accelerate is a much longer package. It's much more intense and there's a lot more training involved. But the journey will hopefully take you to kind of that real impact at scale option. So Accelerate runs once rather than the others which run quite regularly. Accelerator runs once. It's a 6-month accelerator, kicking off with a boot camp, which will be in person. And you get 3 days really kind of gelling together, you with your peers. You get a lot of market validation training, learning how to talk to customers, learning what questions to ask, learning how to find them in the first place. You'll build things like cash flow models. You'll build an idea of your business model. You really develop who might pay for this. How are you going to get it into the beneficiary's hands? Are there technical problems on the way? What's the difference between taking that research and moving it all the way into a product or a service? And that's really the aim of Accelerate. In the program, we've got funding for each of the 7 teams that get accepted. So you'll have resources to really develop your research further and hopefully bridge that gap between what is core research and then the end product or service. And you'll get lots of expert advice and mentors across the journey. So that's really what Accelerate is for. It's that kind of when you're ready to take the plunge. But as I said, with all of the programs, you don't need to commit the whole way. I would say to all of them, start with Discover, just find out more. It's really fun. It's online. You'll be doing it with your peers. And if you're keen, keep going to the next stage. You don't have to jump in all the way. But if you are, Accelerate's for you. Next slide.
Thanks, Chris, for that closer look at the different phases of ramp and how scientists at all levels can participate in the program. So as touched upon, while the program will continue to fold over the next year, the Discover phase is beginning now through the end of 2024. So we are offering 3 different options for times and weeks to participate in Ramp Discover. These are in different times of day, so hopefully accommodate people joining from different geographic locations. and they will be recorded. So if you have a conflict for, one session or part of a session, we still encourage you to sign up. Discover is open to all Alliance CGIAR scientists who want to learn about market pathways for scaling and sustaining the impact of their research. There's no need at the Discover stage to have a specific innovation in mind to participate in the workshops. And we'll now share the links in the chat to register for the different offerings of Discover. Of course, we will share these sign-up details following the event and follow up with information on registration for the later phases, launch and accelerate, which will open at the end of the year. So do stay tuned for this, and we will be sure to get all of this information to you in writing. And once again, I want to thank all of you for joining us for this kickoff event to RAMP Research and Market Pathways program. And again, for your questions and input as we roll out the program over the next year, these will be vital. So we really encourage you, even if you have feedback, just to let us know so we can build this program with you. So thank you especially to our live speakers. Thank you, Marcela, for your words of support in the opening. Watch for our follow-up email after this event, where we will share the sign-up details of the 3 offerings of RAMP's first phase Discover, open to everyone, and a recording of this event that we encourage you to share with fellow CGIAR scientists who may be interested to learn and participate in the program. So thanks again, and hopefully we will see you next time for RAMP Discover.